Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of the Podiatry Legends podcast. With me today is a repeat offender. It is Ted Jedynak, and he was on episode 009, the Foot Mobilisation Master. Geez, that seems like such a long time ago, and we've got him back. We're going to talk about MSK stuff and some courses and education and a lot of other things. So, Ted, everyone knows who you are. If they don't, they've been hiding under a rock. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, Tyson. Great to be here, and great to be a repeat offender in this forum, because the other forums haven't worked out so well for me. So,
Yeah.
And this time, of course, I've got the Podiatry Legends official outfit on, showing up. So very, very pleased that I can wear this in public in this forum.
When I have mine on, I usually wear the black one because it's slimming. Not saying that you don't look slim in the red one, but you're slim anyway, so you get away with it.
And this one goes faster, so you know.
Supposedly. And you sold all your manual therapy clinics.
Yes, yep. The real focus has been on education and being able to guide, mentor, and help other practitioners, particularly in the field of musculoskeletal services. And as well as how do you organise your business to be able to provide those services effectively. And in particular, big, I guess, a target audience that we look at are who are those people who want to increase their MSK services. And particularly in the podiatry profession, you know, you've got the general treatments and the government-funded EPCs, DVAs, which a lot of practitioners are doing a lot of. It's important work, it's essential work, and there are the people who want to do more of the stuff that they really love, all those extra quality skills that they've been developing over the years. So, yeah, really having a very good time helping those particular practitioners build their business in that field.
Well, I'll just go back a step though, because I'm sure, because this was episode 009 that you're on last time, there may be a few people who are listening to this who may not know who you are. Maybe I was being presumptuous, because you sold your clinic back in 2016, and back in the day, you were the Foot Mobilisation Master. So there might be a few newbies who would join you who do not know who you are.
All right, better fill them in, Tyson. Go on, fill them in.
Let's just fill in a couple of details. When did you graduate?
1982. So that's 41 years ago.
That was the year after Noah came in with his ark.
And you weren't even born then. So, geez, boys.
Okay, so that was a while ago. And then from that, you had your practices, and then you moved right into foot mobilisation, and you've done courses all around the world with foot mobilisation.
Yeah. It was in 1994. So I've been in practice, was that 12 years? When I stumbled on this thing called foot mobilisation. I had no idea what it was about, but it turned all my lights on, and the field of manual therapies was just, I thought, man, two great opportunities here. One is I really love doing stuff with my hands, so that was great. And the second was no one else was doing this. And I thought, oh, here's an opportunity to actually specialise or focus into a particular area. So then I worked a lot. The mentor I had at the time, after I'd done my training with him, about 6 months later, he passed on. So I literally had no one, and this is pre-Google, pre-internet.
Yeah.
So learning and developing my skills was a really tough gig. I had a number of physios and chiros that I worked and related with professionally. So I developed my skills, drawing on their expertise. And then it was in 2002 where I set up the Foot and Leg Centre, which was specifically specialist MSK clinic for the lower limb. 90% of our work was with foot mobilisation therapies, and then the other services from orthotic therapy or other manual therapy services were added to that as well. So, yeah, specialist clinic 2002. We opened up a second clinic in 2006. And that was also in Adelaide, South Australia. For those of you who are not familiar with Adelaide, it's in the southern section, in the southern state of South Australia. And then we also opened up a clinic on the Gold Coast. That was 2012. So yeah, there's been a progression of clinics that have evolved. And then, yes, it was 2016. We really wanted to focus on our training and mentoring of people. And we were, from 2010, a lot of international work. We'd spend probably half the year overseas compared to being in Australia. So we thought, better for us to focus in our particular area. So literally all of our senior practitioners who are running those clinics took over the businesses and set us loose on the rest of the world too.
So how many foot mobilization courses have you run? Have you kept track of how many of them you've run? How many workshops?
My wife, Dr. Little, who's from about 2012, she said, you know what, you really need some help here. And so she was literally my guiding angel and trying to keep me under control. And she's got great skills in communication as well as in structuring courses to make trainings most effective. And I know the last time, each time I would introduce her and acknowledge her for the work that she'd done, we were up to, and that would have been 2019, we're up to 52 workshops that she had been through. There's, I know we've had over 2,000 students go through our trainings, but I don't have that number, short answer number.
So are you still doing the foot mobilization workshops? Or have you
sure.
Are you still doing those?
We're still doing those, and we've got a few extra services with fascial release work, tool-assisted massage services, also some neurophysiological work with the Impactor, the chiropractic version of Activator, or they have Activator methods, but
I have one sitting around here.
Yeah.
That one's sitting around here somewhere. I do it. I use it on myself. I use it on myself every now and then.
Here we go.
Yeah, that's it.
Here we go. That's the guy. Yes, manual therapies is certainly it's been the ongoing field of interest and passion.
But now you've moved into more the training people to bring or to attract more MSK services to their podiatry clinic. Yeah,
that's been certainly it has organically grown from those foot mobilization students who said, well, how do I really do more of this in my clinics? It's great learning a skill, but then there's the business implementation side of things. And so certainly been doing a lot of mentoring and helping those practitioners do that. And through that course, there were practitioners who said, well, I don't do foot mobilization, but I do laser, I do shockwave, orthotic therapy is really my jam. Can you help me with that? So sure, we can. It's the framework is essentially the same.
Yeah.
The intervention, well, that's up to the individual. So yeah, do a lot of that would be predominantly the work that we focus on now, is helping those practitioners really get those services bedded in, because it's depending on your niche, the structure of how you provide those services, what you do for different conditions, that all comes into it. I mean, Tyson, what's your experience with seeing practitioners and the various MSK services? Do you see a difference between people who are really doing it well and people who are struggling with it?
Huge difference. But when I talk to, when you're talking to different coaching clients, and some of them, it comes down, it's how their clinics are set up and where they're working from has a lot to do with the services that they actually offer. So if they've got standalone clinic and they've got plenty of room and they've got hallways and they've got specialized rooms set up, they're able to offer a lot more. If they're working in a medical center and they're a one room operation and that room is used by the osteopath on a different day and the physio the other day and the dietitian, and they're having to move boxes out of the way when they move in there, then what they can offer is sometimes limited. And And some of them may be very good at what they do, but it doesn't come across because of the way they've got things set up. And I
But
always
that's a
I jokingly say all the time, if what you love to do was illegal, could I find enough evidence to convict you? And a lot of times you'll go to people's websites, you'll look at their clinic, the way they've got things set up, and you go, nah, you get off scot-free. You don't really like runners.
So that's a really astute observation on your part. Like you've got to have logistics,
Yeah.
facilitate or enable those services
or have a plan in place that eventually that's what I'll do. So I know if you're in a small medical center, one room, and you've been doing that for a number of years, but you want to grow the MSK side of things, then put a plan in place. Okay, I've got 3 years left of my lease. Where are you going to go to next? Don't just accept, no, this is where I have to stay, and therefore the patients are going to adapt to me. No, you've got to adapt to what the patients are needing and asking for.
Yeah, being flexible and open to different options. I think sometimes people get stuck in, well, this is the way it has to be for whatever reason they may have it in their own head or they've seen someone else do. But being flexible and being forward thinking, that's a beautiful thing that you mentioned there. Is about, okay, that forward planning, if it's 3 years, because if you think about it, like the last 3 years, they're gone pretty quickly.
Well, I had a coaching client, and she'll probably be listening to this episode. And when we first started working together, I said, oh, how much longer have you got left on your current lease? She goes, I want to get my own building. I'm sick of paying rent. I said, well, how long have you got left in your lease? She goes, 3 years. I went, start looking tomorrow. I said, start looking. I said, because you think it's not as easy as what you think. And even when you find the right place, it could take 12 months to find the right place.
Yes.
Then when you find it, I said, it could take another 12 months before, yeah, depending on what the building industry is doing and getting it fitted out and everything else. Anyway, she sort of laughed about it a little bit. Moved in only March this year, like 2.5 years after our conversation, and a lease ended this month. And she said, if I had waited, she go, no, I would have ended up having to re-sign back where I was. And where she was really limiting her growth. Knowing that she was going to move, she started introducing all these other services that she knew that would just expand out from where she was, and her turnover doubled.
And like right there, if whoever's listening to this right now, if the only thing you took away from this podcast was what you, Tyson, you've just outlined there, is having that extra set of eyes, like having that outside perspective, that mentor, that coach, who can see things that you can't see. Because it reminds me, literally, when we set up the Foot and Leg Centre 2002, and at that time, I can tell you that our financial resources were as low as they've ever been. We really were in a tough situation from a whole range of circumstances. And it was at that time, in 2001, in fact, that I engaged a mentor because I just knew this business thing, I got no an idea what's going on, what I'm supposed to be doing. And the first thing he said to me was, you got to get your own building. And I said, well, that's good, but I know I'm not going to be able to borrow any money or that. He said, leave it with me. And he introduced me to his banker. And it's like, well, if I go to a bank, there's like a tellers and a branch. No, we go up to the 6th floor and I meet his banker. I'm thinking, okay. And it cost me a bomb to engage him. But just like with your client there, the value return is immeasurable. Yes, we bought our own building, and buying real estate in 2002 compared to how the prices started at the time.
I take it you still own the real estate?
Yeah, we actually sold it. So 2018. We went to move overseas for a bit. So yeah, that was that. But it was like it was. And I wouldn't have been able to see that, but that was the value of having an external mentor who can just and know where the landmines are. And you've done that beautifully with that to say, look, 3 years going to go real quickly.
Well,
let's start.
It's one of the things I think every podiatrist who's been in business for a certain number of years already has worked out they enjoy podiatry and they're planning this is going to be their next 15, 20 years. This is what they're going to be doing. They might be younger now, to me, the best thing you can do is go and buy your own building, even if you've got to eat rice for a couple of years to pay it off or to be able to afford it. Then eat bloody rice, because at the end of it all, tell you, it is just like we eventually bought our building. Took way too long to buy it, but we eventually bought it. But when I sold the practice 7 years ago, I still own the building, and I've been getting rent from it for the last 7 years.
Yeah, perfect. And that's the smart, in hindsight, again, it's the smart thing to do is, like, don't sell real estate. You can always borrow against it if you need money or whatever. Anyway, that's for the whole real estate.
But the other part about planning ahead too, I remember when before we bought the building, our landlord, I get on with him now that he's not my landlord, but when he was my landlord, I didn't always get on. We argued over stuff. And I remember one day saying to him, and I've told the story before, I said, "That's it, we're moving out of here. We've got 12 months to go." And at 6 months, I had to tell him whether I was staying. I said, "We're not staying, we're out of here." I got 6 months to go and find somewhere. Could not find anything anywhere. And I'd burnt my bridge with him. I'd said a few things I probably shouldn't have. And I burnt my bridge because I'm being like a Viking warrior here. Burn the bridge and just keep moving forward. Anyway, about 5.5 months later, when he's asked me what exact day we'll be moving out, and I'm going, oh, I was only joking. Like, you didn't take all those things serious, did you? I was just kidding around. He goes, "You can't find anywhere, can you?" I went, "No."
Busted.
Rent went up, and he said, "I'll give you a 12-month extension, but after that you either sign for another 5 years or you're out."
Right.
And then not long after that, something popped up 50 meters away, double the size of what we were. It was much bigger than what I needed, but we managed to fill it. It's surprising you can grow your clinic to the size of whatever it is.
Yes, well, that's it. The old nature abhors a vacuum. It's like, if there's space, you'll fill it.
I know my first clinic in Cairns was 60 square meters. Then went from 60 to 90, then 90 to 180, 180 to 220, and then we bought the second half and went from 220 to 380. And
that's a big chunk of real estate.
It's a big building, yeah, but plenty of room. You could swing a number of cats in there. It was great.
Well done. That's good.
So now we've turned this into the real estate show.
Going once, going twice.
There's your message, everybody, is buy real estate. I was actually going to do an episode and get a few of the older, not just older podiatrists, but podiatrists been around for a while who all bought their own buildings and actually talk about that on one particular episode. I think it'd be worthwhile doing.
I would agree. I'm thinking straight away too of my coaching clients who are in that state. Oh, shouldn't I? It's like, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, but now, interest rates have gone up to 5% and 6%. You're kidding me? When we bought our property, it was like 8-9% interest rate. So you're getting a bargain right now.
I remember when I bought a first house, it was 18%.
Yes.
18%. It was so much cheaper. And we had the house for a certain period of time. And I was going, you know what? I could get a house twice the size, rent it, and pay half the amount in rent of what I was paying in repayments. And because nothing was going up either. House prices weren't going up because no one could sell them.
I remember.
Okay. Oh, geez. Back in the old days, I remember when.
Well, that's nothing like, yeah. Boy, I think we just lost all the millennials. And,
I remember asking my mum once, "Mum, how big were the dinosaurs when I was a kid?" And she went, "Oh, I'm not that old. Ask your father."
Harsh.
Yeah, I know. Okay, back on to inspiring podiatrists to maximise their MSK skills and services.
Yep.
What's the process? What are you doing to get this done?
Well, I think we need to acknowledge kind of the elephant in the room, speaking of interest rates, the economic headwinds that every clinic is facing right now, and particularly post-pandemic, where we've got, as you'd be well aware of, the problem of employing staff, whether it's practitioners or assistants or receptionists. That's a tough thing. And yes, costs of living are certainly increasing. And one of the things I want to ask you, with your clients, with the people that you interact with, when you give suggestions of, looking at different ways or different strategies of progressing. Oh, and I'm just thinking this might have come up with Jonathan Small's workshop as well.
Yeah.
Do you get the feedback or people saying to you, yeah, okay, that sounds all right. That'd be all right for you, but you don't understand. My situation is different, or my patients would never go for something like that. Like, have you ever had that kind of
Initially, that will be sometimes the initial kickback when I say, hey, because usually when I had the first meeting with them, my goal in that first meeting is we look at their fee schedule. And I go, my goal is to massage your fee schedule so that at the end of the first month, I'm free. Because we're going to do this, this, and this. And if you follow what I say, I will no longer cost you anything. You would have got your money back straight away.
Yes.
And most of them go and do it, but most of them do it kicking and screaming. They're like, oh yeah, but I don't know if people are like that. And then I'll talk to them 2 weeks. How'd it go? No one complained. I go, seriously, no one even batted an eyelid over it. Or they might go, we lost one but gained 10.
Exactly.
So there's this little suggestion. So a lot of the times initially when I first start working with someone, there's a lot of pushback on different ideas. The longer I work with somebody, one particular person, now I can sell them anything. Like, yeah, I'm just going to go and do it, because they go, there's nothing you've said or told me to do that hasn't worked. They said, so if you say we're going to start putting feathers in our hair, then we'll start doing it. I'm not telling anyone to do that. No one put feathers in your hair.
Well, I don't like the way you're looking at my hair, though.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at it with envy.
Well, as we know with hair, is that the more mentally active and brilliant you are, it tends to burn out your follicles. So I've got a full head of hair. And
but Albert Einstein was still looking pretty good.
Okay, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, or a moderate story. I love what you said there about, I'm going to massage your fees, because you say, well, you're going to crank up your fees. But very elegant use of words, and the words, but the action. You're right. I think one of the key things that people appreciate with their MSK services, and if we call them kind of more the premium services, they tend to be services that people love doing.
Yeah.
They tend to be services that, when you love doing something, it's your like, you put more of your energy into it. You're good at it, and those services are also, in a commercial sense, they're more profitable. If we take the simple example of what the hourly return on doing a biomechanical assessment and providing orthotic therapy is, compared to doing 6 back-to-back general treatments. Like, there's just chalk and cheese. So the key thing here, and when you talk about that initial kickback or pushback with people kicking and screaming at the first suggestion, this is one of the things that, literally, as we're talking today, if for you, dear listener, if in your mind you hear the words, yeah, but, just pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Because the good news is it's just a thought and a belief that you have in your own head. It doesn't mean it's true. And Tyson, as you've just demonstrated, is that, once, if we get your fees and then, it means I'm talking in your voice, my services are not going to cost you anything. Like, that is a beautiful way to look at things. And in my experience, the podiatrists, majority, this is a bit of a blanket statement, a lot of podiatrists undervalue the services and the value that they provide to their clientele. So, okay, great. So I'm really pleased that you mentioned that. One of the definitions of intelligence that I like is that if someone agrees with me, they're obviously intelligent. So good. All right, we're on the right track here. But seriously, this is the thing is, if you have a service that you can provide that provides extra value, and this is opens up one of the first things we do with our clients is how do we define value? And there's a number of tangible steps, and we're certainly walking through some steps. But I love the example of where if you had two cars both covered over with something so you can't see the car, and you're told one car is worth 200,000, the other car is worth 80,000. Which car do you think is the better car? We automatically go, well, the 200 grand car. Clearly, if it costs more, it's going to be better. And that's just a great demonstration of our psychology. It's like better. We will often use price as a way to gauge whether a product or a service is better than another.
Because across the board, it is a good measuring stick. Because you might buy a $15 shirt, or you go and buy a $100 shirt, and some people go, "Oh, you're just paying for the brand." Sometimes you might be, but I tell you right now, when you put on the $100 shirt, it's cut better. The stitching is better. People wear it and forget about the logo. They will say, "Oh, that fits your body. You look better in it." And in 5 years' time, the shirt still looks good. Your $15 shirt, it's faded. You've got the $15 shirt I got on now. Actually, I only paid $5 for this shirt.
You were going so well up until that point.
Up until that point, it's a long story about why this shirt only cost $5, but I actually really like this shirt. My wife doesn't, but I do. Anyway, I'll leave that video. I'll probably cut it out of the podcast. Anyway, but it is. So people know that when you pay more for something, in general, it is better quality. It's going to last longer. Long term, you're going to be happier that you made that decision than if you just constantly try and cut corners.
But like generally, you get what you pay for. I think that's a reasonable truism. And then the second thing is, if you do compromise and you kind of get the cheaper version of whatever, there's that kind of nagging feeling, but when you pay the premium and you get the best quality shirt, if we use this example that you've given, it's like you don't regret it. It's like, it's like I'm kind of worth this, and this is it reminds me of in a marketplace, and let's talk about podiatrists or health professionals. There's always someone who's the most expensive and someone who's the cheapest. And the mentor I referred to earlier, like he drilled this point into me. He just said, who do you want to be, the most expensive or the cheapest? It doesn't matter which one you choose. I'll work with you either way. Just know it's your choice.
It's true.
I'm like, oh, geez.
That's a really good point. That is like a mic drop moment.
It's like I used to have my belly button used to be an innie, but it was an outie as a result of that.
No, but that is so good, because like he said to you, I will work with you regardless. You just tell me where you want to position yourself.
Yes.
Do you want to be the cheapest, or do you want to be, someone's got to be the most expensive, so why not you?
Yeah, exactly. And so, but you know what? Then the real battle came on, because it was what was going on in this walnut here. It's like, holy moly, like, and then this is where the mindset and the psychology of things come in, because the biggest demons, I can speak personally here and also with people that I've worked with, is what goes on in their own head. And it's the old Henry Ford lines: whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. It's ultimately going to come from within.
Well, have you ever been in Disneyland? I'm not Disneyland. I assume you have, but Universal Studios.
No.
Universal Studios, they have a ticket to get in. It's $60 or $80 to get in. They have a front of line pass, $160, and they have a VIP ticket, $300. So I'm one of those people, I don't like waiting in line. I'm very impatient. So I went with my wife and daughter and some friends, and I said, let's at least get the front of line pass. I don't want to have to wait. So I paid double so we could get right at the front of line anytime we wanted to get on a ride. It was great. Went back 2 years later with my brother and my son, and I went, tell you, I saw some people in these private little carts. And I've heard this thing about this VIP ticket is supposed to be friggin' awesome. So we paid $300 to get the VIP ticket. And it was friggin' awesome. I tell you, anyone who's thinking of going to Universal Studios, paid $300, you will not regret it. And the thing is, why do they offer those tickets? Because there's people there who are prepared to pay for it.
Yes. And when we get the feedback, oh, but Tyson, you don't understand, my patients are different. They will never go for that.
Yeah, I live in an area that's a socioeconomic area where they wouldn't pay for that. We go, but they spend $150 a week on smokes.
Exactly. It just, and what people can or can't afford is actually none of your business.
That's it.
It's their business. And so this is where when we work with our clients, like, okay, your musculoskeletal service, make it the premium. Look, like if we're going to make it the premium service, and we're going to reflect the value in the actual fees with that, your job then is to work out, is this the best solution for that patient? Is this going to get them the best outcome? If it is, your responsibility is to offer that to them. That's it. It's up to the patient to decide whether they're going to take that on or not. Not you. You cannot, I'm literally inside, I'm cringing right now. A number of times I knew one of the clinics, probably in the 90s, when I would pay attention to either the handbag that was put down or the keys that were put down.
Yeah.
Thinking, okay, can they afford customized orthotics, or should I just offer them the preforms? And I didn't realize I was doing it until I got a little bit more self-aware of what would happen. But something like that, so, like, who am I to cast that judgment on them? And it so often happens unconsciously. It's just like the habits, the patterns.
Yeah, but we used to keep KPIs on, like for how many biomechanic, new patients came in that were like MSK related, and like how many of those eventually got orthotics or some form of treatment. And I know there's some people listening there going, Tyson, you're evil. Yes, I'm evil. I'll just accept it. But then we also kept a KPI on who was in a health fund and who wasn't in a health fund. Now, when you looked at my patients at the time, there was no difference between the number of people who got orthotics who were in a health fund or who were not in a health fund. It was exactly the same. It was across the board. Whereas I had other staff members, if they were in a health fund, it was like they had like an 80% chance they may get orthotics. If they weren't in a health fund, it was like 40%. And I'm going, why the difference? And they were making judgment calls. Oh, I don't know if they can afford it or not.
And that right there is the absolute, I'll say it's not a killer, but it's just, it's such a suppressing thing and who benefits by you having that judgment?
Yeah, well, what happens, the patient you do not offer, and I'm not talking just years ago, I used to, with coaching clients, it was always, we'd work at conversion rate, new patient, MSK, how many got orthotics? Now I've changed that when I'm working with them. It's new patient, MSK, what money value do they spend at your clinic? It's not necessarily orthotics, because there's so many other options that you can offer MSK patient. It could be mobilization, it could be shockwave therapy, it could be low-level laser. It may not be orthotics. It could be a rehab program. But for that person to come in, if you're treating them right, they should spend a certain amount of money, not necessarily get an orthotic. So I have sort of changed my thinking on that a little bit. But talk about the value of an orthotic. I can't remember who told me this story, but anyway, there's this podiatrist, and he said, had this friend that every time they're at dinner, they have a dinner party, this friend would say to him, oh yeah, I got those orthotics off of John, bloody charged me a fortune. And this one day he got up and said, I've had a gut full of you. He said, every time we get together with people, you always tell this stupid ass story that I charge you X amount for the orthotics. Tell me what, I'll give you your $400 back right now if you give me back the orthotics and you just shut up and never get another pair. And he goes, get stuffed. He goes, okay, I'll give you 600. He goes, no. He says, I'll give you 1,000. You only paid 400. I'll give you $1,000 if you give me those orthotics back. You promise never to get another pair of orthotics anywhere else. And he said, no, piss off. And he said, well, why? I'm offering you 2.5 times. He goes, yeah, but I feel so good when I wear them.
No.
And he goes, so how much are they worth to you? How much would I have to pay you for you to give me those orthotics back and you never get another pair? And he went, oh, I don't think I can answer that. And he reckons from that point onwards, he never, ever brought it up that he paid $400 for a pair of orthotics.
That's such a beautiful example of value. Like, what is it worth to that particular person to be able to then do what's important to them? You know, whether it's playing golf, whether it's keeping up with the grandkids, whether it's being able to dance with ballroom dancing. It's like you know, I recall a particular patient, Zelda, who she early 80s, arthritis in her feet. They were just like real mess. And I didn't know whether we could help her, but I knew with mobilization therapies, we can stimulate some synovial fluid. We may be able to get a little more movement. It's probably going to help her with her comfort. And so we did our assessment. Her daughter was bringing her in for the initial evaluation. The key thing here was, like, I asked opening question and consulting, it's like, well, why are you here? You know, my feet hurt. Okay. But what does that mean? Like, what is that stopping you from doing? You say, well, you know, I don't feel comfortable. I don't walk as much. It's okay. Well, why is that an issue? And the issue was her daughter would take her supermarket shopping. And it was literally the one time each week she could connect with her daughter, and they'd time it so that they'd be home to meet the grandkids. That was what was important to her. It was the as we call the significant emotional event. It's like, what's important to me is connecting with my daughter and grandchildren. It's the only way I can do that. When you understand your patient's true underlying needs and reasons for them consulting with you, then the value you provide, like, what's it worth to Zelda to continue that relationship with her daughter and grandchildren? Like, it's priceless.
Oh, definitely.
So then, you know, for a full course of mobilization treatment, you know, whether it was 1,500 or a couple of grand, for her, it was just, and she wasn't a well-to-do woman. It's like, okay, I just need to, you know, prioritize and get this done so that I can have this experience with my daughter and grandchildren. And that really is the underlying thing, making sure you really understand the value of the service that you provide. And when you understand that, now, what's important, you need to understand what is important to them, and they need to understand that you know what's important to them. And so, and this is where it comes in the communication cycle, is where you've got to keep referring to, why are we doing this? Well, we're doing this so that you can continue to walk comfortably on those hard concrete floors in the supermarket and make sure you've still got enough energy to catch up with the grandchildren and find out about their day and da, da, da. So that's what's really important. And so practitioners need to pay, in my experience, pay closer attention to what's really important to the patients and the people that they're working with and they're treating, because then you will actually elevate the level of conversation that you have with them. But then it doesn't become about price.
Yeah.
It's like, what's important to you? You want to keep up with the grandchildren? You want to make sure you keep up with your daughter? Okay, let's find out the best way to help you achieve that in the shortest period of time. Oh, and by the way, these are the fees. You know, like that's the
a secondary thing.
Yeah, it is, when you prioritize. And this is the skill of communication. It's not difficult, just often tends to be a little different from what, you know, podiatrists are normally talking about.
Well, I don't think we're not taught communication. A good friend of mine, Dave Fries, and he always said, when you ask someone a question about something, the first thing they tell you is a lie. He said, but it's not a lie in the sense that, oh, they're telling you a fib. It's a lie they tell themselves and what they tell others. So when they communicate, oh, yeah, I'm seeing it because I've got a sore heel. That's what they're telling themselves, and that's what they're telling you. But when you say, and you wait for them to talk, you go, and then they'll start telling what's stopping them doing and what else. and then they'll tell you more. And that's how you'll end up talking about the dog getting fat because they can't walk it or can't play with the grandkids. And this is what they don't teach us at uni. And this is probably the difference between a new and recent graduate who the patient will come in, oh, what sort of problem? I've got sore heels. Okay, it's sore heels. They're focusing on the heel. They're trying to present a treatment plan based on the sore heels, whereas you and I would present the treatment plan based on keeping up with your grandkids, stopping the dog getting fat.
Yes, yes. And literally, dear listener, if you only take one thing from this podcast, that should be it. Okay,
that's two things now. It's real estate.
I'm losing count. Literally, it's just so core and fundamental because it's how real humans relate with each other. We, in particular with, if you're seeing 15, 20 or 30 patients in a day, you can unconsciously almost get into the mode of, and I hear this a lot where practitioners will refer to their patients, that heel pain case, or, that not me child that would, like, they refer to them as the pathology.
Yeah.
Remember, they are people, and you need to connect with them at that personal level. That will make all the difference. And then in particular, if you have services that you really love doing and that you're passionate about and that you've got a good level of skill level with, and you combine those with really connecting with the particular patients you want to work with, it's a game changer. And I'm thinking of, because what it'll do, it'll help you identify who are you going to target, who's your target audience, who are the people you're really going to speak to. And in the early days, the core audience that really got our business flying was corporate businesswomen. And we didn't realize it at the time, but I was noticing we're getting these women coming in who recognized that what we could do meant they didn't have to rely on their orthotic devices. So one, they knew they had a foot problem. Two, they had a treatment, so with orthotic therapy. But three, I'm in the corporate environment, and I need to look good. I need to wear shoes and outfits that are not going to accommodate the orthotic devices. And so from that, now that we understood that, we had an absolute this is back in the day of newspaper advertising. And for those of you who are not sure what I'm talking about, they're pieces of paper with information on it that get sold on a daily basis. But what would happen is the ads that we had, it was and Dr. Lil came up with this, a 3-word headline. It was literally worth multi-millions to us. And it was freedom from orthotics. That's it. And straight away, like the audience, we were targeting people who had orthotic therapy.
Yeah.
And then freedom from orthotics, these corporate women, we then targeted all the avenues of where they were. And to the point where we would get literally patients coming in with us and say, look, I know you're against orthotics. I'm not against orthotics. They have their place. 10% of our workload was orthotic therapy. If you're hypermobile, mobilization's not, you're already flexible enough. You don't need more mobilization. You need stability. Orthotic therapy is the best way to do that. But then what happens is you get known for your services and you get a positioning. It's like you position your services in such a way that then people know what you stand for and know what you do. I can remember, again, in the early days, in the 80s, Simon Bartold was, he had graduated.
Who's he?
Just at the same time.
Who's Simon Bartold?
Yeah, sometimes, last time we had coffee, I was wondering the same thing. But anyway, what he had done very early on was establish his interest in sports medicine. And he was working at the local state football league. Like, he was a podiatrist now. I'm thinking, shit, how does he do that? And then he got involved with ASICs and sports football. He was the only podiatrist in the first sports medicine facility that was set up in Adelaide. And like, everyone just knew he was the sports guy. Mind you, I'm spending half the time saying, bloody Bartold. But the thing was, it just, one thing kind of led to another, and then he gets all the connections throughout his career because it was something he was interested in, he was passionate in, he was really good at. Oh, it pains me to say that, but anyway, that's really.
I'm just going to take that audio snippet out, and I'm just going to send it to him. Okay, Simon, have a listen to this. I'll just do the video. This is what Ted said about you, and he's going to go, yeah.
Oh, no! I'll give you $1,000. Don't send it to him.
What's it worth to you?
Yes. But this was one of the things that I've also noticed, more of a psychological perspective, is that a health practitioner's business often reflects them as a person. And I'm going to ask you to answer this, whether you believe this to be true, in a moment. But while we're speaking with Simon, about Simon, it's like his clinic was absolutely state of the art. He was leading edge. He was the pioneering sports podiatrist. He literally constantly put it, and his fees reflected his services. The number of times I would know of a patient of his and say, okay. But his business literally just reflected the way he operated. And it's one of the, recently you had Rob Herman on with the podcast. He's another guy.
Yeah.
He is so passionate about his discipline of surgery. And again, back would have been in the 80s, early 90s, I would refer all my surgical cases to Rob, because he literally, it was his passion and his desire to look after his patients to the best level. They just, I knew of all the surgeons, whether orthopods or I think there was only two podiatric surgeons at the time, but it's like, there was no doubt in my mind, he is the guy that you need to go and see. So this is where, how thinking about, if in your mind, dear listener, you are thinking, well, the question I want to ask is, do you cut corners, or do you compromise, or do you compromise your recommendations? And I can tell you right now, Tyson, this is, I'm just talking to myself here, because at that time I was envious of Simon. But when I look back, I didn't have the self-awareness at the time, but I look back and I did cut corners and I did compromise, and I didn't, I had all this mental garbage going on at the time. Sometimes we need to kind of work through that and evolve. So just come back to that question. It's like, in your experience, Tyson, do you see clinics reflect what the actual health practitioner is?
Oh, big time. I had a theory a long time ago, and I was actually talking to someone at one of the universities about it. I said, if I was ever going to do research, this is going to be my research topic. And when I told them, they went, that's freaking good. So let me share my theory.
Please.
And okay, I said, in my head, I look at podiatry clinics that are really well established and very well run, podiatry clinics that have all the bells and whistles and toys, all the equipment, everything like that, that the podiatrists that work there are better than other podiatrists.
Oh.
And what I meant by it, and I've upset somebody already, but what I meant by it was, if you have a clinic that's down a little arcade that's old and dingy between the tattoo parlor and the nipple piercing, or they might do the same thing in both shops, it doesn't really, the competitors, and your podiatry clinic's in between there, you've got beige walls, old furniture, no receptionist, and the podiatrist comes out and they look lethargic, they're overweight, it doesn't look like they care. And to me, would you say that podiatrist is going to conferences, is reading online articles, is involved in forums, has peers that they run ideas past, are talking about? Unlikely. But the person who's putting themselves out there and is lifting their clinic up to say, look at my freaking clinic, look at the toys I've got, look at everything. They usually go into the conferences, and that's how they found out about all this equipment. They go overseas, they check things out, they talk to other podiatrists. They're really well connected. Now, it doesn't mean them individual they are smarter than the person who is down the laneway,
Yep.
but they put a lot more in. Their clinic doesn't get that way by accident.
No, good
A
point.
lot of work goes into it. And some people say, oh, they were just lucky. And I think, yeah, luck has a lot to do with it sometimes. Timing has a lot to do with it. But
Yep.
friggin' hard work is the basis on all of it. And
Yeah.
I just think these clinics that have like, I remember we were doing certain things and we would make a certain amount of money and we just reinvested it back into the clinic. I was not taking overseas trips. I wasn't taking many holidays at all. We took a few breaks around Australia, but everything went back into the clinic. Everyone went back into the clinic. And by reinvesting back in the clinic and going to events and looking at equipment and talking to people, then it was just like compounding interest. It just built up over time until
Yes.
all of a sudden the clinic was just going great. And people would say, I was lucky.
It's what you're describing there is where people walking into your clinic, then like they pick up on that. Like, one, you can see the environment, but two, like there's an energy about the place as well that the staff are proud to be there. You've got people who know that we're use the acronym PSA, just like we're pretty shit hot. Like we do things really well around
Well,
here.
I sold my clinic 7 years ago, and I will be out and about somewhere in Cairns doing something, and someone say, "Oh, Tyson, what do you do?" I said, "Oh, I do a bit of business coaching and I podcast and a few other things." And they go, "Oh, what's your background?" I said, "Oh, podiatry." I said, "I used to own Pro Arch Podiatry." And they went, "Oh shit, the one on Mulgrave Road." I said, "Yeah." They said, "Oh, I went there when I was younger," or my parents took me there when I was a kid, or "Oh, that's where I used to go." So, and I'm still proud 7 years later to say that I actually owned that clinic.
Nice. Perfect. Like that
And to me,
really
that's how
is.
you should look at your clinic. You should stand at the front of it, look at your clinic, and be able to scream at everyone walking past, going, "That is my freaking clinic right there. That's how awesome my clinic is."
Nice. And if you're not sure of how your clinic is, what's the impression that people would have of your clinic? It's like, organize for a mystery shopper, organize for a friend
Yeah.
to, organize for something. And again, and this is where a coach or a mentor comes in handy, is that you get extra set of eyes, independent perspective, because when we're in our own business, sometimes it's difficult. You can't see the wood for the trees, and when you have services or facilities that you're proud of, we touched on earlier, it's like people will make the effort to come and see you, they'll pay an appropriate, pay your fees with that as well. Just this morning, I wanted to. My wife does a lot of overnight things, and she had a late night nocturnal session last night. I thought, well, I want to get her something nice so when she does surface today, she's got a bit of a treat. And there's a particular bakery that I love going to. They absolutely, they'd have to be in the top 3 in Adelaide. And to get there, I've got to drive past 6 other bakeries, cafes, or things where I could get the same product, but it's not the same experience. And literally, when I walked in this morning, their staff are fantastic. And it's like, oh, g'day, nice to see you again. It's like they remember me. I'm thinking, you must see hundreds of people every day. How do you remember me? And it's just, the whole experience is quite extraordinary. And that's where they do what they love. They focus. They position themselves. They are probably the most expensive bakery patisserie in town. It's like, but that's where I'll go. And then as I was leaving, it's like, see you, Ted. And I turned around. There's Jimmy, the owner. It's like, oh, Jimmy, because we have got
my wife today has got there's a bakery in Babinda, which is 45 kilometres south of Cairns.
My
wife has driven down there today to get a cream bun because they make the best cream buns going around. Their cream buns are more expensive than every other cream bun. And
Yep.
when you go down there, there's people all over the place, and it's a great place to go and visit. It's no different to, I don't know if you've been to Yatala Pie Shop in Yatala, which is between Brisbane and the Gold Coast.
Yes, yes.
It's a
That's right.
drive-through pie shop. So you will stand there at lunchtime, and there'll be 50 people lined up out the door. The car park is full. The drive-through is out onto the street. It's a friggin'
Yeah.
pie shop, but it is awesome, and people travel everywhere from all over to go to that pie shop.
And
It's the
the
experience, and
reputation
it's
for
the
the South Coast.
experience.
And when you put those principles in with a healthcare service, that's what you got to do. Yes, the experience is important. You've got to have a quality service. There's no question about
Oh,
that.
definitely.
But then it's like, what are all the, the environment? It's all the other ancillary things that come together as well. And crucially, the communication and connection that you have with your patients, it's got to be of the highest order. But I think then in medical services, I have diabetes, and so I'm often dealing with endocrinologists and these specialists. Every time I go in, I think, I cannot believe just like how poor they are with customer service and my experience like that. And I know it's like, okay, I'm in a position here where, yeah, I know I'm seeing the best. He's now in his 70s. Like every time I ask him, it's like, shit, are you going to be retiring? Because I'm really worried about that. But he's really sharp. Anyway, but that's in like the priority with health. Okay, now right now, dear listener, you may be thinking, yeah, Ted, but I'm a podiatrist. It's like, it's not life-threatening issues. And you're right, it's not. We are more, our profession is more in the discretionary spend category. And people, there are shoppers. There's no question about that. Price shoppers around the place. First of all, do you want to appeal to them? And second is, who is your ideal client? Like, who is the ideal person? Is it someone who makes their health a priority, who will do what's necessary, who will follow your instructions and not argue about the fees? It's like you can be discretionary as well, and particularly in this time where we're seeing a lot of practitioners' appointment books are full of the general treatments, of the EPC. It's like, well, I can't stop, accepting EPC referrals because I'll upset the doctors and all that. What if there was a way that you could be guided step by step to actually just shift or
Massage.
Thank you.
That's one of the other things that we do. The other thing is down the track a little bit, we look at the schedule. We go, now let's start massaging your schedule to be able to get more MSK patients in and limit the amount of EPCs and routine care, if that's what you choose to do, because it's their choice.
Yes. Ultimately, everything is their choice. And if you're the clinic owner, it's like you have the choice. If you're an employee, you could actually work with your owner, with your employer, and say, I'd like to do more of these services. And put a business plan always like, if I do more of the MSK services, it means there's more income. It means that the business profits will increase, and yes, I would be compensated accordingly. But it's like a win-win everywhere, each way that you look at it. And so yes, just the important thing is things can be massaged, things can be worked gently, more enthusiastically, if you want to head in that direction. But if you are looking for help and assistance, I thought, if there was only one thing you took away from this podcast, don't try and do it on your own. It's just too hard and too slow.
Hey, I'm just looking at the time. Gonna have to wrap up in a sec.
No.
Yeah.
Is that the time?
That is the time. We've been talking. We've been talking for over an hour.
I'm thinking it's probably 25 minutes.
Yeah, I know. I just looked and I went, holy crap. Because I told you when I got in, I said, I've got to be somewhere at a certain time. Anyway, so to wrap up, at the moment, you've got a MSK Business Building Boot Camp that you're going to be, that's starting on the 4th of September, 2023. Goes for 8 weeks. I will put links in the show notes, but is there anything about that you want to talk about just before we wrap up?
Yeah, thanks, Tyson. Really, really excited about this. We've got people enrolled from all over the world and all disciplines. So it's going to be a very multicultural experience. And what it is really about probably the four key elements. First is identifying what are those MSK services you love doing that are more profitable and more beneficial for you clinically, for your clientele clinically and commercially. We also look closely at the evidence-based treatment plan. So it doesn't matter what intervention you're using, but what are the what's the evidence tell us about how to get the best outcomes for your patients? Then there's also important communication techniques. So as we've discussed today, it's like, how do you connect, engage, educate your clientele, but importantly, to enroll them into the service that is going to be help them get the best clinical outcome. And then we also want to make sure we've got a good level of mavulous messaging. Mavulous is the combination of fabulous and marvelous, because I keep getting those tongue-tied with those. So I've come up with mavulous. And this is really about how do you communicate and position yourself and your services so that your community understand that you are the go-to person for this particular service. So the boot camp is literally over the course of 8 weeks that we will go through and get all those foundational elements in place so that you can do more of what you love. And that really ultimately, when you do more of that, you end up providing better quality service, and your patients and clientele get the best outcome. So it's just
definitely. So it's all going to be done. It's all done online.
All done online.
So
we have weekly lessons that are delivered, and then a weekly Q&A session. So all conducted online. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll put a link in the show notes. So if people go to podiatrylegends.com for this episode, there will be a link there. And then also, whatever podcast platform you happen to listen to this on, there will be show notes there. If you hadn't realized, there's a section there. Click on show notes, and there'll be a link there as well. So if you're listening to this now on your iPhone, I think there are other types of phones, but on your iPhone, if you have a look at the show and you follow the notes, there'll be a link there right now that you can actually click to go to the MSK Business Building Bootcamp. So, Ted, I want to thank you for coming back on the show. And this has been a fun conversation. Like I said, it's one of those ones where you start talking and we could talk on so many different topics.
I'm very worried when we do come and visit you in Cairns, and yes, we sit down and have a beer. It's going to be a long night.
Okay, Ted, so
enjoyable night.
Yeah, I know. So thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Tyson. Much appreciated.